Eyes in the Dark, The Curious Case of One Victoria Bloom is a roguelike, kinda Metroidvania style twin stick shooter. It's on Steam and Epic Game Store. Okay, first things first. If you're familiar with the roguelike genre, you should already know what to expect. You kill enemies, defeat bosses, gain upgrades, and if you die, you gotta do it all over again. Now, before I fully get into the review, I would like to point out the options. Mainly the screen effects and the accessibility. Of course, you got your basic audio and video. There are also screen effects that you can add and basically give the game a more fun and cool tone with the different colors, even though I mostly played the game in its monotone default setting. It's small things like that that I appreciate the most. You can fully customize the controls, which I had to do because I really didn't like the twin stick shooting, even though it's a twin stick shooter. I made my flashlight attack one of the shoulder buttons because I didn't want to jump with one of the shoulder buttons. I wanted to jump with X, so I had to change up a couple buttons for the accessibility. You can change the game speed, have your flashlight always on, invulnerability, infinite ammo, infinite sparks, fully heal upon death, which is really good for beginners of this genre and this game. But I didn't use none of it. I just want to throw that out there. Okay, enough about all that. Now let's get into the story. Eyes in the Dark is about a young, fearless girl named Victoria Bloom. One day, her grandfather, Victor Bloom, sent her a letter asking to visit the Bloom mansion to basically learn more about her ancestry. You see, the Blooms are a very long line of smart and prestigious people. From scientists, philosophers, botanists, astronomers, the list goes on. When Victoria makes it in the mansion to finally find her grandfather, she is not only greeted by him, but greeted by darkness that takes him away. But before he is fully consumed, he throws her a pocket watch. And that is the beginning. Now she is on a search for her grandfather through this big mansion that she's never been in. And there is darkness that lurks in every corner. Sounds scary, right? Fortunately, she found a flashlight before she entered the mansion, and that is your weapon. It lights up all of the dark areas and it kills the creatures that are roaming through the mansion. That's a unique part about the game. Some areas in the mansion has complete blackness and you must use your light to see what's ahead. Creatures also hide within the blackness and they can shoot projectiles and jump at you. Oh, and by the way, just look at the face that she makes when she shoots. I'm telling you guys, it's the small things. Okay, now let's talk about upgrades and items. In some areas, there are chests. Some of the chests healed you for a bit, but majority of the time, you will find chests that will upgrade your slingshot, your flashlight, and your gadget. In addition to these chests, you can also find special doors in certain areas. For example, the door with the cogwheel, that door has an upgrade in it. In order to get these upgrades, it could be easy or it could be challenging. Sometimes you have to kill the creatures in the area to get to the upgrade, and sometimes they're just there for the taking. I can't forget about Edgar the Raven. This next door has a raven symbol on it, and it is home to Edgar the Raven. Get it? Edgar Raven. Okay, now Edgar has items, but his items cost sparks. Let's backtrack a bit. Sparks are the currency that you obtain by killing enemies or simply just finding them in chests or dressers or cabinets. You can also break down upgrades that you will not need, turn them into scrap, and the scrap turns into sparks. Edgar also has the ability to replenish health and re-roll the items that are there, but that will cost spark also, and the more you use those, the more the spark goes up in price. You can also use sparks to buy extra item and upgrade slots on your weapons and your gadget. Okay, we talked about how to get these upgrades, but let's talk about what actually happens when you equip them. So when it comes to the flashlight, you're equipping different bulbs, and that's what determines what your flashlight's primary fire would be. Oh, and there are so many different versions of the flashlight. There's a flashlight that shoots fireworks. There's one that turns into a sword. There's one that turns into a two-sided spear. One that does burn damage. One that turns into a laser beam. There's one that electrocutes you. There's one that shoots bubbles. There's one that shoots like a shotgun. There's one that shoots waves of energy. But my all-time favorite one was the one that shot like a machine gun. That was my favorite. In addition to that, you have batteries and augments that you can also put on your flashlight. And your slingshot. They had different effects like burn damage, or when you attack you heal, or extra damage, or like daze effect, stuff like that. Electrocution to all enemies around. The slingshot kind of works like the flashlight the same way when it comes to changing your primary fire. The only thing about the slingshot is the slingshot takes bullets in order to use. Now these bullets replenish the more damage that you do, but sometimes it was hard to get that damage off in certain areas to get your slingshot to replenish fast. But there are also augments for that, more bullets or faster regen. Now the main upgrade for the gadgets were the boots. Some boots give you 0 gravity or a triple jump, or some boots even let you burst beneath you when you jump. It's a lot of different boots. The upgrades to the boots were stuff like more invuln on dodges, and when you dodge through an enemy you gain health and stuff like that. Now let's talk about the enemies, the creatures in the mansion and the bosses. When you defeat a boss, you gain the ability to unlock another area in the mansion. Now before you get to the next area, you have to choose one of the 3 perks and impediments. It's exactly how it sounds. You get a positive effect and you get a negative effect, and it lasts for the duration of the run, so choose wisely when proceeding to the next area. Normal enemies are pretty easy to deal with for the most part. Some just basically just shoot beams or just fly at you and stuff like that, so it's pretty easy to deal with. But bosses, on the other hand, they kick it up a notch because sometimes their patterns can change depending on the run. Some bosses just don't stop shooting. There are even bosses where you have to fight 2 at a time. But just like any roguelike game, you learn the patterns, you learn the moves, and everything should all work out perfectly. Now after you defeat a boss, that also progresses the story. When you defeat a boss, it helps you be able to unlock more of the mansion, and you also gain more knowledge on the Bloom family. You gain knowledge that the bosses are guardians of the past Bloom ancestors. I wonder who is Edgar a guardian to? Also, speaking of knowledge, there's something else. Every time you complete a run, you gain knowledge, and knowledge is basically another currency. There are books that are collected that's made to give you an advantage for future runs. Use these books to put different augments, items, and upgrades at the beginning of each run. You can also use these books to put different items in chests that wouldn't even be in chests unless you bought them. Lastly, you can add new perks that can be selected in transition rooms during a run. There's also a journal that you can go through if you want to know how many perks or impediments you had so far, or items, or even how many monsters and guardians you kill, or if you want to know more about the Bloom family. You can just go to the journal and it'll tell you everything. It's almost time to wrap this up, but I need to talk about one last thing before I go. After you complete the game, well, defeat 9 bosses, the game isn't over yet. Custom runs unlock, and there are many things that you can change during these runs. Each Bloom family member has a different perk and impediment, so that makes for a good amount of replayability. And that's it. Overall, I think the game is pretty good. I like the soundtrack. I like the way the story is told with this silent movie style that they got going. Oh, and I like the machine gun flashlight. So if you're looking for a quick roguelike experience that you can just sit down and play, I recommend this game. If you made it this far, thank you all for sitting through my very first video game review. I wanted to test it out and it was a good time. It was fun making a video. Maybe there will be more in the future, but until then, stay away from the darkness. Take care, or get a machine gun flashlight.